If there's one thing politicians are really good at, it's simply this: saying something that initially at first on the surface sounds good, but when you unpack it, means absolutely nothing. Okay, case in point. Chrystia Freeland recently was quoted as saying that she wants grocery stores to have a plan to stabilize food prices. All right, sure, sounds good. Who wants to be paying higher and higher food costs? Nobody. So she wants the grocery stores to come up with a plan to stabilize those. And if you're not paying any attention or don't understand how economics works, sure, sounds really, really good. But let's unpack that statement. How would, pray tell, grocery stores achieve this goal? First off, for most of you, if you didn't know it, grocery stores are one of the lowest margin businesses. That's right. They make predominantly most of their money on volume. That's what it is. So they make pennies on items, but they sell a lot of items. And that's how they predominantly make a profit. And if you didn't realize it, they don't produce anything. They are the end distributor. That's essentially it. There is a layers and layers of groups that food has gone through, from the farmer to the person who, let's say, is the importer, could be the distributor, to the driver, the supplier, anyway. There's a myriad of layers that food has touched perhaps along the way, with the grocery store being near the final, and you ultimately as a consumer the final. So where could and how could grocery stores stabilize prices? Well, they've got a couple of options, I suppose. They could, number one, say, yeah, we're going to make no profit. That's right. We're just going to give the food away. I wonder how well that would work. If they're not making any money, I don't understand why they'd be in business. Well, that sounds a lot like being a socialist system where the government controls the means of production and distribution, and then I guess the government would be taking over grocery stores and running them because they're not being run for a profit. Actually, if the government ran it, we'd be losing a ton of money on them. But anyway, whole different story. So we obviously now know that they can't do it there. All right. So what else can they do? Well, I suppose another way they could reduce costs to bring prices down or stabilize them is let all their employees go. Yeah, well, we do have grocery stores where they have automated checkouts and you can self-checkout. So if we eliminated all the people that work in the store, well, yeah, I guess that could save some money and that would cut some costs. However, the downside of that would be now we have more people that are unemployed, but not to mention theft. Would people just walk out with items all the time and not pay for them at all? Which I guess is a win because it does lower prices for consumers effectively, and it's true. That would definitely stabilize prices for those buying them. In fact, so low that they'd be zero in some cases. Okay, so that doesn't seem like a viable solution. Now, could they go to all the suppliers, all the people that are distributing, bringing them the goods, and ask them all to reduce their prices? Yeah, I'm sure they could try, but all of those people have fixed costs and operations as well. So let's look at what's really adding to the cost of higher groceries. Well, we hear all the time inflation. So what's a driver? Well, it's the means of production. You've got farmers that are paying more for fertilizers, resources, fuel. Fuel is a big proponent of a lot of manufacturing. I mean, let's face it, you need energy to produce products. You need energy to deliver products. You need energy to manufacture, to change products from one form to another. So energy seems to be a big component of cost. What's happening to energy? Well, it's going through the roof. Why? Well, because we are on this hell-bent green initiative to come off of traditional fuels, traditional means of energy production, and go to these alternatives, which obviously we have to subsidize because they're not viable. They cost a hell of a lot more. So in order to make them somewhat viable, we're in fact inflating the cost of the traditional ones that are there, which is a government policy. So it seems like government policy in their hell-bent direction has led to some of these problems. Well, what else is causing these higher food costs and higher inflationary costs? Well, we know the cost of borrowing funds. I mean, a lot of these businesses may be having to, borrow money for equipment, for resources, for whatever they may be. And all of their costs are higher now because interest rates are higher. Now, why are interest rates higher? Well, it's because we flooded the market with stupid amounts of money during the pandemic, the virus, which didn't do anything. It didn't cause the harm. It was the policies that came out of the pandemic. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying the pandemic didn't physically cause harm to people. Sure, it definitely did. But I'm talking about the financial implications, the policies, and the way that things were implemented by governments at all levels due to the pandemic. and how governments grew at a variety of levels during the pandemic reaction as well. So we can see here clearly that to say something very glib like, well, grocery stores should really come up with a plan to stabilize prices, while it sounds good, is useless because they have no power or control to do so. The very few options they have aren't really going to impact prices much and really aren't going to effectively do it. Even if they went with the plan of, like I said before, canning all their employees so that nobody worked there, I would pretty much guarantee you there won't be much left on the shelves very quickly because the shelves will get looted. There are people who genuinely won't pay for them because they feel they're entitled to free groceries or free whatever. Because we have a government that is confusing people, and basically when someone thinks they have a need or a want, they automatically believe it's a right. So are we entitled? Do we have a right to lower grocery prices? No. It's a need, it's a want, yeah. But we're not entitled to them. There's no right. What we are, though, I would say entitled to is government that functions well, doesn't lie to us, and effectively does a good job, which is only going to happen if, as consumers, as savvy voters, we get educated and we realize that when they make simple, simplistic, stupid statements like we're going to stabilize prices, they don't mean anything, okay? They're useless. They're empty, hollow rhetoric. That's what they are. If that were the case, I would think government could stabilize prices and everything. They could just reach out to the airlines. Hey, we're going to stabilize prices. Hey, car manufacturers, stabilize prices. You should just stabilize. In fact, why don't they legislate them all to lower prices? I mean, it seems like they got unlimited power. I mean, that would work, right? I mean, why not? In fact, what we could do is anyway. Thank you for watching. I know this gets off tangent sometimes because the insanity is simply just overwhelming at times. Anyway, I do appreciate it. You can follow me in my Rumble and my Locals account. You can also, if you haven't subscribed to my channels, please do so. And I'm on Twitter at Camera612. And I will see you next time and we'll have another thought-provoking session.